It's the Pike and Alex Show, Talking Taipans. Chris Pike and Alex Loughton come to you with everything that is 100% Taipans. Let's go. It's Talkin Taipans. This episode of the Pikey and Loughz Show proudly brought to you by Cairns Total Physio. Less pain, more life.
Hello and welcome to the Pikey and Loughz Show. We've made it to 3 episodes, Loughz. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Episodes. 3 big meaty
Unbelievable.
ones.
Unbelievable. A month ago when we first started talking about this, or 5 or 6 weeks ago, who would have thought we would have got 3 episodes into it and got the reception that we have? I think we're becoming quite a little bit of a hit throughout Cairns, and didn't the team deliver us plenty to talk about last Friday night? What an amazing record-breaking win that was by the Taipans in Perth.
Call it, or did Loughzy call it? Tell me if Loughzy called it or not. You just tell me. Tell me.
You called it anywhere anyone could listen. You called it, and you had people all around the country calling you out for it, but you were spot on the money. The only thing you didn't get right, you're out by 20 points. Yeah.
I was out by 20. I might have to just adjust the synchros on that one, and I'll give a lot better prediction on the next one. But no, I was certainly thrilled with that. But certainly lots to get to. I've got a mystery guest for you today, Pikey. I've got a mystery,
and you haven't even told me.
No,
yeah,
it's in your inbox, but I don't want you to. I want to leave it a surprise. Okay, it's a bit of a surprise today, but certainly lots to get through. We got through a lot the last couple of weeks because we're kind of establishing the team, the starters, and obviously the bench and everything in between. So we've sort of moved on from that now, but I feel like we're in a bit of a groove.
Yeah, I think so too. And I've got before you take over the show, because everyone wants to hear your thoughts on last Friday night's win, a couple of rapid-fire things I want to throw your way, Loughz. Now, the success of the Pikey and Loughz Show, already two shows in, how much has that had to do with you now suddenly becoming a media superstar all over Cairns once again? You're all over Win News last week with your lager segment, a lager with Loughzy. You did a piece with the Cairns Post offering some answers to some questions. How much of this has got to do with the Pikey and Loughz Show?
Mate, it's 100% because of the Pikey and Loughz Show. Let's not beat around the bush. Once Win News heard that the Pikey and Loughz Show was taking off, they said, well, look, we want a piece of that. So they jumped on board. And then the Cairns Post were like, well, there's no way we're going to miss out. So, mate, I honestly, I haven't searched for any of this. You had a great idea with the podcast, and a great avenue for me to sort of feel connected with everything. And then everyone else is saying, look, there's stuff that he's got to say, and maybe let's just stick a camera in front of him or a microphone under his breast. So I've got to be careful with what I say, hey?
Now, also got to know, what does Michelle think of it so far? Has she had a chance to listen?
Yeah. She's my wife's enjoyed a few of the podcast thing. It's probably a bit long for her liking. She probably breeze through the finer details. But she's wondering why I escaped to the studio. I'll call it a studio downstairs for all intents and purposes. No one can see exactly what's in front of me, but it's really just a garden shed out the back. But, let's get straight into it. What have we got?
One last one.
Sorry.
Your old mate from Perth,
yes.
who coached you for a few games in the SBL at the Perth Redbacks. Nick Lakovic he gave the Taipans no hope last week, but you put him in his place pretty quick.
Look, a former Wildcat himself. He was the coach of the Perth Redbacks, which I did 2 small stints at the start of 2 of the SBL seasons while I was over in Perth. So I was kind of involved in that group for a little bit, and just mates, obviously a bit of banter back and forth here and there. He obviously caught wind of my prediction, and I remember it coming up as a notification. It said Nick Lakovic said something, and I was like, oh, where was that? Where did he say it? Anyway, I obviously found it on in the thread on my Facebook post, and then I was like, oh, there it is, screenshot that. I was like, oh, that's a thing of beauty, that is. So he goes, mate, I don't know how many lagers you've had, but you're going to be way out. Cotton and Terrico White are going to have a field day.
Yeah.
Pikey. And I think if I actually play back the podcast, I think once you stop Cotton, the rest of the Wildcats will fold like a cheap suit. As a fold like a cheap suit. I think we can slow it down there and just nail exactly what I said. But it was a good one, mate. It was a bit of trash talk, and we certainly delivered as predicted. But great to sort of quieten the naysayers.
Well, that field day that he talked about, Bryce Cotton and Tereko White, they went for a combined 11 of 30 from the field, and Bryce Cotton only had 3 points after quarter time, so didn't quite eventuate.
38%, like it's, he hit some big shots, obviously, but yeah, I mean, I just felt like, and it was disrespectful to say the Wildcats would fold like a cheap suit. Like that's a bit of showmanship there, Pikey. A couple of tricks of the trade, maybe we'll teach you along the way. But no, I just felt like there's no team that's going to have it all together just yet, and it takes time. So I just felt like it was just right for the picking because I saw a bit of the progression in the body language and some of the mental aspects of the mental progression that the Taipans showed between the Bullets and Wollongong game and what I could see there. And that's actually a clue to my mystery.
And you did say that last week.
It's a clue to my mystery guest as well for you, Pikey. So you can have a think about, that side of things, and it might give you an insight as to who we'll have on the show soon.
I think I might have a bit of an insight now because it might be somebody that we mentioned her as a shout out last week. Possibly,
maybe
we'll see. We'll see.
We will see.
Let's get to the game, Loughz. There was like you said, there was a sense from the moment the Taipans lost on Monday night in Wollongong that was a game they let slip, and it hurt them to a point where they just weren't going to let that feeling happen again. Right. So I think the schedule in a way worked in their favour. They were able to get to Perth on Tuesday afternoon. They had 2 really good days on Wednesday and Thursday where they had a training session in the morning, and then it was like a week back home in a lot of ways. And then they were able to prepare for the game on Friday. They were well and truly refreshed, and they didn't have the distractions of back home during the week either. Sometimes if you're 0-3, you're back home, your family and friends are trying to say the right things by supporting you, but by doing that, they're bringing up the things that you don't need to hear. Yeah. So I feel like by being away from home, it probably helped them. And by the time they got to RAC Arena on Friday night, they were just ready to deliver, and it was a tight first half, but Cam Oliver comes out and hits those 2 huge threes to start the second half, and from there it was game over. And I just felt like they were a team on a mission the second that they got to Perth last Tuesday, and they weren't going to leave with anything but a win when they flew out Friday night.
Well, I certainly think they're a team on progression and certainly on a mission, because we saw the progression between the Bullets and the Wollongong game. They cut that momentum swing out and put themselves in a position to win the game in Wollongong, and then the progression into an aggressive 40 minutes, really. I mean, up by 2 at halftime, but then certainly didn't let it slip. They really were focused on, how they were going to approach the momentum swings. They didn't handle it well at Brisbane Bullets. They handled it well in Wollongong, but came up short, but then executed to perfection and with a little help of catching team fire. But you said the lack of distraction by going over to Perth earlier. I think that's hitting the nail on the head, because you can be on the road too long. Like if you had a couple extra days, you're like, oh, should we go home for a few days or should we just go straight? Sometimes it can backfire and be like, oh, we've just got a bit of cabin fever in the hotels, we're away too long. But there was no other option for them. They come home for maybe 24 hours and jump on a plane. That's 2 extra flights, basically. So they made the right decision, and they certainly will get so much confidence out of this game. Specifically, I thought Cam Oliver was instrumental. It was set up. The plays were set up by Scotty Machado and all that. But I still think that you got to hit the threes. Cam's got to hit those threes and still make those crazy alley oops. Really impressive plays. So he basically handled the paperwork. I'd say Scotty Machado really broke the press, the double teams. He found open guys. Cam Oliver really just put dotted the I's and crossed the T's in a very loud way, but it was certainly fun to watch. So he was just he loved to celebrate too, didn't he? Did you catch that one, Pikey?
Absolutely.
A bit of celebration, a bit of staring down the camera, and then
stared right down the barrel.
The play's still going, and the ball gets thrown over the top for a layup, and he fouls.
That's
and
right.
Mike Kelly's there sitting there, Cam, what are you doing? There's certain,
if you went up by 20, then I think
there's certain times of the game you can celebrate, and it's got to be, if it's in the passage of play, it better be quick, and you better be locked into your defensive assignment. If you're staring down the lens, giving the NBL broadcast exactly what they want, you're actually not aware of your surroundings. And
no, I think it caught everyone off guard. I assumed that the Wildcats had just called a timeout as soon as he threw down the alley-oop, but hopefully that's what Cam thought too, and he was just caught off guard.
I think they broke out the maracas and at that point there was a bit of a fiesta going on, but yeah, certainly the game wasn't done and dusted to just put the queue in the rack and enjoy some cold ones. But
the other thing I like to get, like, Cam's performance was fantastic, but to have Majuk Deng alongside him, that looks like it's one hell of an exciting duo now as a front court. Obviously, there's going to be times when you go with Nate to provide that difference and a bit more power and size. But gee, if you've got two guys like Cam and Majuk who are, as long as they can hold their own defensively and they can still rebound the ball solidly, they can score in so many ways, and they give you so much length and so much size and so much athleticism there. I'm looking forward to seeing that combination just continue to grow together throughout the season.
Yeah, I think it's very energetic and very dynamic, and you add Kwat Noi to that little, energy sort of a trio, as they can they're interchangeable really. But I do want to throw two numbers at you, Pikey, two numbers of importance, 10 and 25, okay? So let's talk about, I think that the trio of imports is right. It's great. It's really it's on song, and it's exactly the kind of trio that you'd want. There's certainly no question marks there, kind of thing. Where I see a real area of importance is the core group of Aussie New Zealanders. Okay, so I would say most teams would have their four main Aussie or New Zealand guys, their four main core players that they retain at all costs. That is a huge driver into the team's success for that year. So take Melbourne, for example. Assuming Barlow's healthy, all right? Just assume Barlow's healthy for a minute. You've got Barlow, Pledger, Golding, McCarron. All right, there's four players there that you're really going to rely on for the Aussie New Zealand side of things, the core group, and they're really going to give you around that 10-point mark between them. The four of them got to average out to at least 40 points between the four of them. So that's your Aussie kind of New Zealand's core. And then you've got your three imports on top of that. So what you need is, and this isn't a definitive model or anything, but what you're kind of looking for, and the reason why you retain your core as much as possible, is that Aussie core will give you around about that 40 points kind of thing between the four of them, like four guys you can really count on to deliver double-digit points. And then you add your three money imports on top of that. They're the ones that'll give you your superstar, your 15, 16 points a game, your big man that's going to give you another 10 or 12 points a game, and then your third import that's chipping in with a good, solid numbers as well. So with the Taipans, you've got your three imports that I think are really good. They're perfect for what we need. I think where the question marks will be on how well they go this season will be we need four guys that can really step up and deliver double-digit points every game. Now, it's not 100% like double-digit points. Like, I need them to score. Like, it's just between four of them, there just needs to be some consistency. So Majuk Deng had, maybe a quiet start at home, and then had the 14 points in Bullets. I think it was 17 in Wollongong, 22 in Perth. This is one of the guys. This is a guy that very quickly needs to be one of those four main contributors, and I think he's up to the task, Pikey. I think he's capable. What are your thoughts on the way Deng's played the last
Well, he's not shy on confidence, and the last 3 years in Adelaide, all he's asked for is an opportunity. There's been times when he's shown what he's capable of, but it just didn't come regularly enough for him. So I've actually just finished an article on him for the Taipans website, which you can check out.
Right.
And he just provides some insight on how he just craved an opportunity. So Mike said the opportunity's there for you if you come to Cairns, but you have to work for it. You have to improve, because we know you can shoot, but you need to be a better defender. You need to be a better rebounder and develop an inside game too, so it can go to you in the block. So Majuk's put in all the work. I mean, he's got all the physical tools you could ask for. He's 7 foot tall. Yeah. Like we said, he can shoot as well as you could shoot. And
let's not go that far. But it's whoa.
And his wingspan's probably 7'5", so he can block shots from anywhere when he's locked in. So all he's ever wanted is an opportunity. He's getting it, and I think there's no reason why the 22 points he delivered last Friday, why it can't be a regular thing for him. He's not going to score 22 every night, but if he can average 15 points, 8 rebounds a game this season, then he's more than holding his own, and that's what you could ask for from your power forward, and that's what I think he's going to end up delivering.
Well, here we go. Quite noise on 9.5, averaging 9.5, 10 points a game, right? So he's right. Yep. He's right about there. He'd like to have a few better performances, I'm sure. Dang's on 14 a game. Nate's on, I think, somewhere around at 9 or 10 as well. So there's 3 players that are part of your core. Now Jared Kenny is more of a defensive guard, more of a floor general. So, I mean, points, although he's an important part of the core, this part I'm talking about is your offensive output from your 4 real strong contributors. So the Taipans need one.
I think it has to be Mirko Jeric, doesn't it?
Well, it does. And basically, his time has been probably inconsistent, and everyone's going to have their game. Sometimes it's not going to be your night, and whatever it takes to get the job done. I'm just saying, over the course of a season, what you need is 4 contributors that can deliver double-digit points, and at this stage, we've got maybe 3 that are there. We just need that one more. In my books, that really has to step up and earn their minutes, because like you said, they've got to earn their minutes. They've got to prove themselves. There's certainly been glimpses and really positive signs, but and I need 4. I need 4 guys I can count on every single night. Now, the reason why you retain core and put a premium on keeping players is because they know each other's tendencies, and you're not going through those growing pains every year. So that's why you get a good core going through every year. I put a premium on that. Then, if you get lucky and get 3 of the good trio of imports, that's right. Because it's hard to get that right. Let's be honest, because you can be hit and miss sometimes. You can put in all the due diligence behind the scenes and get just someone that's just not quite the right fit, and that can really hurt a team. But this year you're adding 3 really solid imports to a team that hasn't had an established core. But if Majok Dan can very quickly play like he's been here for a couple of years and be one of those core players, that's great. That's 3. I feel like there's 3 players there. Then just need that 4th contributor to recognise that we really need performance from him. Basically, the 25 number. So 25 points off the bench is what the New Zealand Breakers had when they won their three-peat. Wildcats have had in previous years as well. So 25 points off the bench is going to hold you in good stead. If you rely on your starters, you're at the mercy of your starters. When they have a bad game, you're not going to win if they're not on song, because if your bench isn't giving you much more than 10 or 11 points, 12 points a game, then you can't rely on them either. So there's that balance there, and that 25 points off the bench is roundabout from what I feel is necessary to have a championship winning team. So it just it's not the exact model. I just think they're really important numbers for me, because over the course of a season, you're not always going to hit. In Scotty Machado's case, you're not going to split a double team and rise up off 1 foot and hit a 3 like you did in the Perth Wildcats. Like, you're not going to catch team fire every single game. So you've got to be able to win the grindy out games. And if everyone or if your contributors are in place and your bench can give you that 25-point range, you're in a good position.
Well, you would think usually you're not going to be getting 11 3-pointers just from Cam Oliver, Scotty Machado and Majok Deng. So that's where they had 13 points off the bench last Friday, but Nate only had 4. So if he adds on average an extra 6, so then you're up to 19. And I reckon Mirko Jeric is the other one who he only took 3 shots, and because those other guys were making all their shots, there just wasn't a lot of shots to go around. But I would have thought,
if guys are making shots, then let them fire. Like, give it to the guy that's hot.
For sure.
No question about it. But you're not always going to be able to catch team fire every game.
Of course.
That's. I mean, that would be that's awesome. That's a great thing to have, but it's not going to happen every game, and you've got to have players aware that you need everyone. Like you need those contributors. Otherwise, it becomes a hit and miss kind of season because you're just relying on one or two players.
So I think on average, if Mirko's averaging probably 8 shots a game, then he's averaging 7 or 8 points. So he's producing 5 or 6 more than last week as well. Suddenly you're up to that 25-point mark. So they're not too far away. It's just that last Friday night a couple of guys got hot, but I think they've got the players there that they can deliver that 25.
Do you know what, Pikey? As a shooter, do you know the goal is actually not to score the basket? The goal is to get your shot off. So what do I mean by that? I'm not worried if the shot goes in or out. I know that if I get a shot off that's clean, it's going in at 40% from the three.
Sure.
So the goal is not, I hope this goes, you better go in, otherwise I'm not, it's your focus is all wrong. If you're focused on the output, then you're going to get yourself in a fit, and this is for all. You just have to take
the right shots for you.
This is for all players. So the goal is to get separation and to get your shot off. If I take Cam Trugar, for example, in the post, he was finishing at 62% based on his post move and things like that. And I remember saying to him, because he was worried about his, scoring buckets and things like that one time, like he's just like getting it in. And I said, every time you shoot the ball, it's worth 1.2 points. So it's 60% times 2 points, right? Every shot he shoots is worth 1.2 points for the team. Every three-pointer that I shoot at 40% times 3 points is worth 1.2 points for the team. So me getting my 3-ball off is the same as Trig getting a post move, a shot off. And so your goal is to put yourself in a position to get a clean shot off, and that means you're doing your footwork right, you're doing all that stuff, you're setting up the screens and coming off properly, or you're doing what you got to do, but the focus is to get clean looks, and that takes the pressure off whether it goes in or not, because the numbers don't lie. You're going to hit your percentages over time. It's really it takes the pressure off the shoulders, and it's actually, you kind of go, thank goodness for that. Like I was focusing on the wrong things, so it's really important. Otherwise, you just get yourself in a tangle.
You know this coaching staff with Mike Kelly and Jamie O'Loughlin, obviously, and Brad Hill. Are they likely to be giving the players this sort of? Is this the freedom that this team will be playing with?
Absolutely, because the science is there and the psychology is there as well. That if you focus on the output, you're toast. You got to focus on the process, and that is getting your footwork right, putting yourself in a position to be successful. Not just focusing on, I hope this goes in or not. They'll be all over the top of that. But it's just something that I thought maybe people might not be aware of. But yeah, it's just interesting stuff.
The 23-point margin, the biggest ever win by any visiting team inside,
meaty, wasn't it?
Inside Perth Arena. Unbelievable performance. What does it mean for this Taipans team, though? How do they make sure it's not a one-off performance?
Well, let me tell you this. What I saw with Scotty Machado, so the Wildcats were in a position where they're like, man, we got to up the pressure, we got to put the full clamps on and get, we got to do something here. They put the pressure on Scotty, and he was poised, he was composed, he split double teams, even when he didn't have a dribble, he still pivoted through. He found Oliver in the corner, I think, but he was just instrumental in breaking any chance of the pressure toppling the Taipans. And you know who else I've seen do that?
Just touching on that quickly before you tell me, how many players have you seen able to do that up against a Damian Martin-led defence?
There's been one, Pikey. There's been one, and his name's Scotty Wilbekin. And the reason is, in the pre-season, Damian Martin decided to spice it up a bit and give him a bit of a Damian Martin sort of medicine, and Scotty just discarded it and just took off for this pre-season game. And I remember it clearly. I just looked at my teammates. I was just like, wow, that's what we got right here. I was like, that's pretty good. Yeah. That's pretty bloody good. So, I'm calling it now. I'm seeing very similar capability between Scotty Machado and Scotty Wilbekin from a teammate's point of view, looking at your point guard, having confidence that they've got the nous to win games and they've got the nous to take us to the promised land. It's really encouraging signs and such a relief, I guess, from coaching staff, teammates, guys that have been around. You go, man, this is a great, not only a great point guard, but we've got a great trio in all three of them. So, really encouraging.
I've had a chance now to sit down with Scotty and get to know him a little bit. Fantastic, level-headed guy who knows where he's at in his game.
So
he knows.
He's what?
Yeah, he's still young, but he, unlike Melo Trimble, who was still trying to find himself last season, I feel like Scotty knows when it's time to take over the game himself, when to set up his teammates, and he's just got that just got such a level head on his shoulders, which defies his age, but it's probably because he's been able to play all around the world. He's played through Europe, he's played through NBA stints, and he's probably arrived here the finished product, whereas 12 months ago Melo Trimble was still trying to find himself.
And the one play I'm thinking of as well, we were the Taipans inbounding from the base, and the Wildcats were putting the pressure on. They were sort of double teaming the inbounds, and Scotty got it. I think he just pushed it out with his left hand, and the players were like he just got off a head of steam. But he pushed the ball so far out in front, it was like 2 or 3 dribbles, and it was already down into the keyway, and then the alley-oop to Cam Oliver for the finish. So, I mean, Wildcats threw everything at them pressure-wise, and Scotty just discarded it and put like feet in between him and the defense there. Like he was stretching out way out in front and just able to dismantle it. So it was just really, really cool to see. And here's the big question, I guess. We talk about follicle faux pas. The hair is now out of the braid. Does it stay out for the rest of the season, Pikey?
Well, I would suggest that he likes to mix it up a bit. I would have thought he's very well aware of the way he's looking. I think he takes it very seriously, and I would think we're probably unlikely to see the same hairdo any successive weekend, so I'd expect probably something different for this Friday night.
Do you think JK might surprise him with some clippers and say, "Hey mate, what about just getting rid of the sides?"
It's unbelievable, isn't it? What JK is rocking right now. I just can't help but stare at it while he's on the court.
It's impressive. It's just got body. It's just delivery. It's delightful, and it even the commentators praise for about a good solid chunk of time.
I just like that he even wore it at the World Cup. He even went to a World Cup with it.
It's impressive, and I want to get a measurement on the back tail just to follow its progress throughout the season. But
I reckon we get him on the Pike and Alex Show, and all we need to talk about is the mullet.
Just to measure his hair. Look, okay, thanks for coming in. Look, first things first, we just want to measure the hair. Okay, all right, that's it. Thanks, JK. All right, cheers, man. Will JK get braids? Does JK get braids now, and does Scotty Machado just leave his hair flowing?
Potentially, if you let it keep growing, you can do anything with that. So I reckon he can maybe even put some colour through it too. We can do anything.
White guy who probably wouldn't be able to get, but he's got a bit of mouldy in him. I think that New Zealand, he might actually be allowed to get braids, which is cool. I was never allowed to get braids in college. No. Like, it was just the cool guys. So anyway,
but you've got your hat that you do pull out though.
I do. Yeah, I don't have any tattoos. I've got the clean skin, but tattoos is another story. This episode of the Pikey and Loughz Show proudly brought to you by Cairns Total Physio. Less pain, more life.
Look, really the only thing that mattered from round 3 was that performance from the Taipans, but I will very quickly run through the other results from across the league, and you can let me know what stood out to you. Sydney Kings beat New Zealand Breakers twice. They had a 5-point win at home on Friday night, and then they really put the clamps on them defensively and held them to 21 points in the second half on Sunday over in New Zealand. So the Kings still undefeated. The Breakers are still winless. Adelaide 36ers. They started off life at the Adelaide Entertainment Centre pretty impressively with a win over the Brisbane Bullets. Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, they're still unbeaten as well. They look good there. If Sydney are the best defensive team right now, the Phoenix are the best offensive team. They put up another 106 points to beat the Hawks, and then the Wildcats bounced back from that. And that loss to Cairns, a really great performance from them to bounce back to beat Melbourne United, who are now still undefeated, still winless. This season as well. And then Monday night, Adelaide went to Wollongong and got the job done over the Hawks too.
Well, it's interesting, the scoreline, Sydney and the Breakers. Obviously, they played each other back to back. The 90s range for that Sydney home game, and then back to 70s range. Yep. So, New Zealand coming up short both times. I feel like there's going to be a bit of quite big rumblings in the New Zealand camp moving forward. Obviously, Sydney losing Lish for a few months now with that it said something like a minor ankle fracture. I was like, that doesn't sound good at all. But the one I want to talk...
Well, I'm not sure how minor anything can be if you're missing multiple months.
Massive loss to the Kings. But, Sean Bruce will be sort of licking his lips at the opportunity from that sort of standpoint, although, Lish is more of that shooting two-man rather than a point guard. But look, the Adelaide game I want to talk about, because Adelaide lose that Sydney game at the start of their first game of the season, but then very quickly they've made amends and look to have a little bit of momentum on their side. So new stadium, certainly the juice is flowing for that game, but then to win in Wollongong, a bit of a dangerous position right now, because Joey, as we know, is run and gun. A very new, fresh-faced Taipans beat them in the preseason without Jerome Randall, but now face a different beast in Jerome. But will Adelaide be feeding off this momentum? Of course they will. Will the Taipans be feeding off their confidence-boosting win? Absolutely. So it's going to be a massive clash on Friday, and we'll break down that game in probably towards the end here, Pikey, as we look into the next round. But yeah, just interesting that Joey's been able to very quickly get his side back on song. Thought it might take a little bit more time, so I guess he's done well in that regard. And an Adelaide 36ers team that is fueling on all cylinders. They love their defense for the first 6 seconds of the shot clock, and then after that, if the offensive team can stay composed after that first 6 to 8 seconds, then the defensive breaks start happening. But all their bluff is in that first 6 to 8 seconds of D, because they want to get out and run and get on the rim. And they've got a few athletes at Adelaide as well. Griffin up around the rim as well, and they've got guys that are really willing to buy into the system and get the shots up. So interesting one coming up Friday. We'll break that down in a bit.
Who are you most concerned about in terms of the season now that Melbourne is 0-3, the Breakers are 0-2, the Hawks are 1-4? Which of those do you think probably can't turn things around?
Probably can't turn things around. I think New Zealand are in a bit of strife. You see an assistant coach leave. There's 2 losses in a row in different fashion. I just don't know if it's a hack.
No, they also had somebody running around in CJ Bruden's number 23. Did you see that?
What was it? The blood jersey. How do you even have a blood jersey as CJ Bruden's number sitting in the bag?
Exactly.
In the bag, Pikey. It's not even an option.
Exactly. Why?
It shouldn't even come off first. The pressure of just being made. Here's all the jerseys. The guy, the manager's looking through everyone, going, "Yep, there's this one, there's that one." Does he stop at 23 and go, "Hang on a minute"? There's a 23 up in the rafters here. Actually, there's 2 23s on both sides of the up in the rafters here. Why is there also one in the kit? I wonder if I should just, So, that bit of a massive faux pas there. But look, I think Melbourne are going to somehow rally or get it together, or they could, attitude-wise, throw in the towel and be like, every man for himself. Let's get out. I'm collecting my check and getting out. Yeah. It could implode if they're not careful.
Well, and now we see them come to Cairns on Monday night. It's going to be fascinating.
I mean, it's we certainly I think I was thinking about this the other day, that the line is we got to get punters to the game to help, obviously, the Taipans make Melbourne United tremble at the knees. You like that one?
I love it.
I'm coining it.
I love it.
I'll probably use it on the Larkers with Loughz as well, so I'll get some mileage out of it.
I can almost guarantee old Joe Snake will end up with that on the sign on Monday night now.
Yeah. Well, they like to come up with their own slogans. They don't like to. Well, actually, maybe they do like to borrow off other things. So.
Oh, this is the place to come now for him. He just needs to listen to this every week.
He should. I mean, if people want to be in the know, Pikey, they better listen to old Pikey and Loughz, because you never know what's coming around the corner with what we're about to say. Well,
and speaking of that, our special guest on this show, why don't you fill us in? Because if you're trying to understand a basketballer's mind, as long as I've got the guest right,
Pikey. I think you're pretty much on the money. There's only one female that's allowed within the inner circle of all Taipans from previous sort of years, and this year is no exception. I'm of course talking about team psychologist Jodii Maguire. Has been with the Taipans from 2014-15 grand final season, and she's back on board again this year. Let's take a listen. All right, well, I'm here with a very special guest, Jodii Maguire, sports psychologist from Think Performance. That's thinkperformance.com.au. Jodii Maguire, hello.
Hey, Loughz, nice to chat with you.
Jode, thanks for joining me on my little podcast with Chris Pike, as you know. Now, I just want to first question, what are the deepest, darkest secrets for the Taipans for the season 2019-2020?
Yeah, nice try, Loughz. No, you're never getting that out of me. That's not going to happen. Next question.
That's a test. Very good, Jazz. You passed. And I'll let Jasmine know as well. Jazz, one of the things that we spent a lot of time when I was playing, we talk about momentum swings. Just run through me. What are some of the points with around momentum swings in the game? Because they're always going to happen, aren't they?
Yeah, and that's probably the first thing that I would want athletes to recognise, is that momentum swings are going to happen during a game. So getting that understanding and then learning what to do with them is really important.
So at what point do you just say, okay, it's a 2 or 4 point momentum swing? At what point do we identify that, hang on, this is getting a bit out of hand? And what are the processes in place, I guess, that we would use for those past few years with the Taipans?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things, but the main thing is sometimes we'll have a point, like you mentioned, it's a point recognition. So 6 or 8 points, that's definitely a swing against you. So a 6-0 or an 8-0 run. Right. That's definitely one way of recognising when things have swung against you or the team. And the other thing is to recognise when you feel that moment that it just got hard. So internally, when you recognise that it just got hard and it got grindy, you've probably at the beginning or in the middle of a swing.
Yep. Yeah. So I remember sometimes we would use a word or a kind of a phrase or something to identify one with the players on the court. This is one of those moments, because some players might not be able to recognise it when others are really in tune with the fact the game might have just changed. Are some players more in tune with that kind of thing, do you find?
Absolutely, and I think more experienced players will pick that up, because you'll always hear coaches talk about momentum. You'll always hear commentators, you'll hear people on podcasts talking about momentum. So we do know that it happens, and the more you play, the more you'll come to recognise it. Right. But it's really helpful if you've got people on the team or on the court that are recognising it, but also if you've got people sitting on the bench who can recognise what's happening and use that cue word or that cue phrase.
Because we used to use, I think we used to use like lock in, like come on guys, it's time to lock in. Like lock in was the sort of the word that we use in one of the years. Like each year the language will be different, of course, to suit whatever the team has come up with. But I just remember that being one of the things, because you joined the Taipans, for those that don't know, in the 2014-15 grand final year with Scotty Wilbeck and Tory
Craig, and obviously some success straight off the bat. So it really galvanised that with the group. The work that you did was very influential, and that was one of the things I remember, that keyword identifier. What about the positive swing, and how do we amplify the positive momentum swings and capitalise on that?
So it's about recognising when you've stopped the bleeding, and then being able to go back to your strengths, or go back to your safety play, or go back to what you know, and get engaged in the game and in your role again. And that will start to turn the tide. And it doesn't matter what sport it is, whether we're talking basketball or any other sport, or even when it's an individual sport. So recognising that it's slowed down and you've stemmed the bleeding, and then going back to a strengths type approach so that you can actually turn up the dial and get the swing to come your way and turn it against the opposition.
Right. And can we, one of the things that, I would always sort of go to is sort of a bit of a fist pump kind of thing, a bit of a energy boost type thing. Is that a technical type thing that people can have? Is that something that you would identify as?
Yeah. Definitely. Yours was a celebration, so you felt really juiced by that, and you felt really positive internally, and we know that positive and negative behaviours are very contagious for teams.
Right.
And no matter how many times people will say that, if you don't pay attention to that, then you aren't going to get the benefits of it. You will just go on the downhill slide. So definitely those positive cues, and yours was the fist pump and the cheering. So if you can find ways to make that positivity contagious, then you are going to enhance or amplify that swing.
Did you know that it was I was never really a fist pumpy kind of outward emotion kind of guy. I did it a couple of times when I was at the Wildcats, and then it wasn't something that I just did every sort of time or a lot. And Andrew Loughz said to me, when you get excited, like that gets the crowd going, but also gets your bench going. And he sort of said, you've got to do that more. And it was sort of a learned behaviour to really take note that it's something that I should do a lot, because, like you said, it is contagious. But these are learned behaviours as well. I feel in some ways to really do it a lot. Is that something the more older players get with experience, kind of what really drives or feeds off or is contagious, to their other teammates?
Look, I'm going to say, yes, older players get it, but I also think there's some players that naturally understand that stuff. So psychology is one of those skills that, yes, you can definitely learn, because it is just mental skills.
Right.
But some people do take to that stuff naturally, and some people have to work harder at it. And that's why whenever I'm working with a group of athletes, or even with an individual, I get them to focus on mental skills as part of their overall training as an athlete. It's one piece of a three-piece puzzle for me.
Right, and I do want to talk about, I guess, the individual player kit. I guess, what do they have? What do they have to sort of focus on in the year? Obviously, the easy one seems to be, yes, you got to focus on your performance, your physical output. But what are the three sort of elements that we would do in my time there? Obviously, or maybe you've adjusted them more now so that there is three elements. Is that what you said?
Look, in the last few years of practicing psychology, particularly with teams, I've really focused on trying to develop a methodology that works for individuals as well as teaching, doing group education.
Right.
And that is getting them to understand that there's the tactical aspects of their sport, be it a court sport, a team sport, an individual sport. Every game has techniques and tactics that the better you get at those and the more refined you are, the better you perform those skills.
Right.
There's also strength, speed and fitness, so that physical element of the game, and we know that fitter, faster, stronger certainly helps you in performance.
Right.
But that third piece of the puzzle is their mental skills suite. Right. And again, different people are going to have strengths in certain areas. So some people, just to throw some out there, some people can concentrate really well. Some people are really mentally tough. Some people are very, very resilient. Some people can visualise or relax really easily. but some of the skills you'll have to work out. So I call it, this is my wording and this is what I'm working on as a model, I call it the complete athlete. And I believe that if people focus on those three elements, they're going to get greater performance in their sport.
So and I feel like those first two, technical, tactical, and the physical, output, it sort of doesn't have an emotional tie to it. I mean, there is some elements there, but when that well-being element kicks in as the third thing of being a complete athlete, I feel like that's a great third pillar, and certainly one not to be ignored, because the emotion of everything and your well-being would be a huge factor in how well you perform.
Absolutely. And there is an element of emotion in all of those components. So when you're not meeting your physical goals or you can't quite execute a skill the way you want to, there's definitely going to be a level of emotionality and frustration in that.
Sure.
But I think what we're seeing now in sport, particularly elite sport, and I'm personally driven to bring this into youth sports and pre-elite sports, is that well-being piece as you defined it, and that is really taking care of your well-being, your mental health and your mental skills, so that you're getting the right balance. Because as an athlete, and particularly an elite athlete, you pretty much sport 24 hours a day.
Right.
So where is that time to be lousy? Where is that time to be Jodii? Where is that time to be you? That is so critically important, because you're working in such a high-stress, high-pressure environment the rest of the time.
And I feel like in the real world of the working world, of which I've had a bit of a taste of it now, I feel like it obviously carries over a huge amount. It's just that it's not in such a condensed time frame, the output. It's just such a prolonged thing. So it really is relevant for anyone in business or any, in life, I guess, outside of sport, hey?
Yeah, and look, this might sound like a gratuitous plug for the work that I do, but I do spend 50% of my time in sport and 50% of my time in commerce, but very much in that performance space, because a lot of the skills can be transferred over into your working life.
Yep.
And I also work with students, because the same rules apply at school.
Right.
Be focused, be locked in, work hard, but when you're not doing that, relax and have fun. And when you get that balance, you actually start to perform better. So the more understanding we have about what performance truly is and how to get that balance and what well-being is, we can get that nice balance and we can live a very happy, balanced and successful life. So you're right, 100% right.
Jodii, it's been great to chat with you. I really, really appreciate your time, and I think there's I could talk for hours, and I think maybe I'll have to hit you up again soon, because there's so many cool elements that one that you brought in when I was playing those last few years there at the Taipans. So I certainly really appreciate what you did while I was playing, and just looking forward to exploring further with you if there's another opportunity. So thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to talk more about it, Loughz, and thank you, and thanks for the feedback on that. It's always great to hear that this stuff helps, because it's really important. It's important for not only athletes, but well-being is really important for everybody.
Massive thanks to Jodii Maguire from Think Performance. Really good insights into what we would be doing for the last few years as I was playing for Taipans, and also I've noticed a few minor tweaks for this year's team. But you know Jodii Maguire, Pikey. What are your thoughts on I guess her work and what's been your involvement with what she does?
Yeah, I do. I've known her for a long time now. She started working at the Wildcats when Rob Beveridge was there as coach, and her influence was immediate on that team. It would have been on their championship winning team of 2010, I would think, when she started. So I got to know her then, and she was always enormously protective of her players, which is why I think the players all had such trust in her, because she knew that they all knew that she just had their back. So somebody like Brad Robbins, I remember that he couldn't speak more highly of the transformation that he made from an emotional point of view and from a mental point of view, where he turned himself from a bit of a hothead who was really hard on himself into one of the great leaders of the competition. He was somebody that wasn't ever enormously talented, but he just became such an enormous leader of that Wildcats team, and it was a lot to do with what Jodii did. Same with Rob Beveridge. He was a coach that needed a little bit of somebody to provide some probably an outside influence to help him out, and I know Jodii did a fantastic job there, and Stevie Way as well, both when he was in Perth and Cairns. He couldn't speak more highly of everything that Jodii did to help him as well, because anyone that knows Stevie knows that early in his career he was enormously hard on himself, and he just had to probably chill out a little bit, and I think Jodii had a huge impact on that. But from a personal point of view, I mean, Jodi's been a fantastic supporter of mine as well, and because we deal with the same players, I think, and because I try to make it my focus to share good stories and to as you know from when you were playing, I like to just let the players that I speak to get their story out there in a positive sense, and I think that's something that Jodii always has appreciated from me. So she's always been an enormous supporter of mine. So I know she does some great work with the West Coast Fever in the netball. The work she's done with the Taipans has been unbelievable, and I'm just really, really glad that we can give her a little bit of airtime on the Pikey and Loughz Show.
I think she's able to help unlock the player's mental side of the game. Obviously, she spoke about just there about the tactical side of things and the physical side of things, but the mental side of things and the well-being side is huge, and that's obviously where Brad Robbins was really able to understand a lot more about what was going on in his head, because emotional players, it's really important to still be you and to still have that emotion. You know, other players like Stevie Way, who's unemotional but very, very methodical and routine, he still has a mental side of it that is probably more, he keeps more internal. But someone like Brad Robbins, someone like Nate Gower, they're very externally emotional, and it's important to be able to channel that, but identify areas. So she's just a handy resource for the players to access that inner workings of the brain. So it's been really insightful, and I think there's certainly more to explore with Jodii later on in the season. And
what about for you, Loughz? She came on board in the latter part of your career where you probably hadn't. I don't know what words in your mouth, but you probably hadn't really dealt with a psychologist from any great extent.
Yeah, so my first
in your career.
So Taipans, Dave Armfield, who's from an AFL background and a sporting background, so he knows teams and things like that. And so that was the first year, 2 years, I think, for the Taipans. And then there was probably a bit of a gap, and then Jodii came in. So that was 2010 when I started, and that first sort of hit of that side of things. Now he wasn't a psychologist background. He was teams, and he was experienced background in that regard. And then obviously Jodii came on board for that 2014. That was a grand final year, by the way, 2010. So it worked. It was an instant success, and it just we were able to get a lot of things out of it with the personnel that we had. And with the 2014-15 team, we'd sort of had a few bad years, and then she was able to really hone in on identifying a lot of key elements. So, she gets along well with everyone. She's had to work really hard to establish trust and establish relationships. It's not a she just comes in and everyone's mates with her because she's an outside thing. It's not that at all. She's actually had to work really hard and force herself to, talk with all these players. And, and some players coming from overseas aren't going to be receptive to just some random kind of person saying, "Hey, I need you to tell me what you're feeling." Young males don't really open up like that. But with her skill, she's able to, I guess, work in a relationship with them and help uncover and help them identify. And then slowly but surely, it's sort of they can buy in, and then they're able to hopefully use it to their advantage and get a better performance.
How did you feel it helped you personally? And based on that, did it take you a little while for her to earn your trust as well?
I was aware of a lot of the psychology around sports for quite some time. We even had a psychologist in at Old Dominion at college who, who had different techniques and things. And I think I was receptive to it because I was in a leadership role as well, and I really knew that, with her help or in that position, a lot of players could get a lot of benefit out of it, because a lot of times players will just go, oh, well, if I'm not performing well, that's all I can do is just work on my game. Well, you really got to work on the mental side if you're going to be and Jodii calls it a complete player from that interview. She's sort of really coining that kind of thing. To be a complete player, you take care of those three elements: technical, tactical, the physical, weights and shooting, all that kind of stuff is the physical side. Then the well-being and mental side is that third one. To be a complete athlete, you're really maintaining all three elements and giving it due diligence and time. So I found it beneficial. For instance, in the 2014-15 year, I had a bit of a shooting slump, and I felt like the ball was like a watermelon. Like, it was just this heavy foreign object. When I would catch and shoot, it was just in this kind of fun. I just didn't have much confidence. So I spoke with Jodii about it, and we broke it down and sort of found a process that worked to go through that. And then it came good, and we're rolling. And I had a great year. It was 12 points a game type thing, and no one probably is none the wiser. But to be honest, like, it was at a really low point, and we just had a conversation one day in Townsville actually, and just sort of put it out there, and so we just worked through it. And what a valuable resource to be able to have that. So it was a huge asset to the team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great thing that the Taipans have actually seen the importance in her, and seen the importance to still. I mean, she's still based in Perth, so she has to fly over to Cairns a lot. She would have spent a lot of time on that aeroplane, but I think it's a great step forward that the Taipans made. What was it, 5 or 6 years ago now, to actually realise how important of an area this was to invest in. It's a crucial investment,
really, and you spoke about the maturity of these young Taipans players. I think they'd be really receptive to what she's trying to put in place, and I think there'd probably be some pretty good buy-in. And when you have a bit of success on the court as well, hopefully they can get a few more wins in a row here. But it'll really galvanise the message as well. They'll really buy into it even more. So it's just interesting to watch.
No, it's a perfect segue, Loughz. Perfect segue. Absolutely. Perfect segue into the Taipans doubleheader now for round 4, Loughz. Like we talked about before, let's look at it in a bit more detail. Friday night, Adelaide Entertainment Centre. So the new venue is only Adelaide's second game in that building, so maybe that lessens the home court advantage a little bit. But both teams deserve to be feeling confident coming into the game, like you touched on. Majuk Deng going back home to Adelaide. I'm going to be really fascinated to see how he handles that. And also a guy that you know pretty well, and looking forward to getting your thoughts on. Daniel Johnson will play his 300th NBL game. You had plenty of battles with old DJ, so looking forward to seeing how he goes too, because it's a big job for both Majuk and Cam Oliver to make sure he doesn't deliver a 25-point plus game.
Yeah, it's the recognition of the style of play that Adelaide have, that the Taipans are they just have to lock into how dangerous and potent the 36ers are when they get out to their run and gun game. So they're all trans. It's all sort of downhill hoops. In terms of defense, I'm not buying that they'll be in the contest late in the shot clock. So the first 8 seconds on D, they're going to be Frisky McGee. So they're going to be up and in. They'll be hoot and holler and like hard-nosed D, that kind of thing. Try and get a steal, risk everything, gamble on stuff just to cause panic, and then run down the other end with high flyers and Eric Griffins and try and throw it down, and just the speed of the game is what Joey loves, and he's been good at it. Really, I mean, it's hats off to Joey. Sure. His style is really high octane, high offensive output at the risk of not as sound defensive principles. Let's say they've got principles, of course, but it really takes a backseat to the style that they want, which is huge number of possessions. Like, if your normal possession count for a game is around the 80 mark, they'll be more around that 95 type mark or something like that. just more than the average sort of game. If you look at the Taipans of yore, the possession numbers were around that 60 to 65 possessions per side. So slowing the game down basically, which is unexciting for the Taipan fan. Paying his hard-earned cash to it. Great for the traditionalists.
It was winning for a lot of the
traditionalist basketball lovers who enjoy tactics and X's and O's and running through a 35-second shot clock or a 24-second shot clock. But the style of the 36ers is run and gun and don't stop. Just keep going, and Joe will have a spray as well. He'll use everything he's got to keep his guys juiced. The Taipans, the new faces, just have to very quickly acquaint themselves with, and I don't think they will panic, but they will basically have to be very in touch with how they're feeling about these momentum swings, and just have a plan in place. Look, this is how we're going to control the tempo. This is how we're going to not succumb to the crowd and the energy of the opposition doing what they do. If we break that 6 to 8 seconds of our shot clock by good team play, their defense will break down. So moving the ball side to side, getting it through hands, getting consistent sort of, getting the ball in positions, in correct positions, not being pushed out further than you'd need to. So if we're talking about free throw line extended, that means if you drew a line, if you extended the free throw line all the way to the sideline and you get this, where the 3-point line meets that free throw line, I'm going to call that the free throw line extended. That's kind of where a guard will want to catch the ball in the wing and wait for the big to set an on ball. If the guard gets pushed way out high or comes way high, towards the top of the key kind of thing, that means that the defenders push them out off their spot. So you've got to be disciplined in catching the ball in positions where you need to. Around about that free throw line extended, you've got to wait for bigs to set screens. You just can't be rushed because the defense is trying to make you rush, make you panic, make you spray up something, and then they can pick up the scraps and go send the horses off to go off and gallop. So their style of game is a bit of smoke and mirrors, I feel, and no one would know more about the inside knowledge of the team than obviously Majok Deng, who's coming off 3 great games of constantly building, and he'll be certainly giving the inside knowledge on how to best expose the team. So I'm really looking forward to this one, Pikey. It's going to be a really important game for both sides, but for Taipans, if they do drop this game, in the next one or whatever, and all of a sudden that 23-point win in Perth means nothing, you've almost spent all your positive points in one game rather than winning the Wildcats game by 3, winning this one by spreading out that plus points. So hopefully the guys are going to be locked in, and I think they will. I think I don't think Adelaide have got it fully together. They certainly caught team fire and had multiple contributors, and guys off the bench were putting in big numbers. Jack McVeigh, someone that's barely got time last year, he pumped in 14 for the game just gone. So
I think he had 14. I think he had 30 across the 2 games they played last weekend.
And they've got players that can score the ball, and there's certainly plenty of possessions, as I spoke about. So Taipans got to roll in confident. They've got to be very aware of the speed of the game that's about to try and be imposed upon them. If they can get on top of and control the tempo and just understand how Adelaide play under Joey, then I think they'll get the job done.
Then Monday night, it feels like a bloody long time since that first game of the season at Cairns Convention Centre, but finally the Taipans are back home and they play a Melbourne United team who they would have already played this weekend against New Zealand on Saturday, but they could very well come to Cairns 0-4. What are you expecting?
It's an interesting one. I didn't expect it, to be honest, and maybe there's just a bit of inexperience and immaturity in the superstar-studded lineup that it's just not getting it done. It's close. but it's just not getting it done. I just wonder how long that can go on before, coach really got to put his foot down. But I mean, that's obviously what they're dealing with. The Taipans are 1-3. They're not, looking down the barrel of a great record. They're trying to right the ship, and I think they're certainly on the right path. But it's going to be a massive clash, and we're going to need fans at the game. It's obviously the first Monday night outing. If it's a limp turnout from the fans, then it's not it's not bringing the juice that the guys will need. You need over probably 4,200 at the game. We seat 5,200, but a weeknight's always tough. But if you can get over 4, then you start to you get that volume, that crowd going into it. And I think the players are exciting enough to put bums on seats. They got. There's dunks for days going on now. Like, that's impressive. There's alley-oops. There's all sorts going on. Certainly fun night out. I think if we can get the crowds there, then it will certainly take the game to where it needs to go.
I can't wait to see the point guard matchup, Scotty Machado and Mello Trimble. Be interesting to see what sort of reaction Mello gets when he comes back to Cairns. What are you expecting both in terms of that and also how they'll go up against one another?
It's certainly a great matchup. Two strong point guards, they certainly have the strength to get to where they got to go. Two different players, as I've mentioned before. I think Scotty is a more well-rounded player that suits a floor general position, but he'll really need to put points on the board when the time comes. I think it's going to be a tough one. I feel like Scotty Machado might have the edge because of the well-rounded game. I think Mello might have him on pure youth and ability to put the ball in the hole. But Scotty's certainly proved capable of doing that as well in various stages. So I just think the Taipans need someone that involves everyone. And I think between that matchup, I think Scotty would have him.
Yeah, I feel like Mello will probably score more points, but Scotty will probably have more of an impact in other areas too because he's such a great passer, such a great floor general. He's proven he can rebound well for his size. So I feel like Scotty's probably got him in more areas, whereas Mello's probably that scoring first type point guard. Now, I think he went for Cairns in Adelaide on Friday, Loughz. What have you got on Monday night in terms of a tip?
Adelaide. First of all, back to Adelaide. I think Taipans by 4, but it's going to be 90. It's going to be 93 to 89. They're going to do a job on the tempo and they're going to restrict their numbers. So a win by 4 in Adelaide, and then the home game's going to be. If it gets in a grindy sort of game, it could be kind of low scoring. What's going to happen here, Pikey? Taipan's going to get the edge by 8 on Monday night, and it's going to be 9. It's going to be it could be even more. 92. We'll go 92 to 84.
We've got no reason to doubt you so far, so we'll see. Very quickly, we'll limit them to as close to one-word answers as we can. The other games across the round. Starting Thursday, so an earlier start. New Zealand Breakers, Illawarra Hawks, both teams struggling, but this could be the most watched game in NBL history for all the people across the world watching LaMelo Ball and RJ Hampton going at it. It's a game that the Breakers just can't afford to lose, can they?
And it's a home game for Breakers, you said?
Home game for New Zealand.
I think the Breakers will finally get a W here. But isn't it interesting that people are watching two players going at it? Like, it's sort of the Wollongong in New Zealand is just a subtext, sort of great for the individual, great for NBA, great for exposure, but probably not great for team.
No, well, maybe not, but at the same time, if people tune in initially just to see those two guys, it's a great chance for everyone else to impress, and suddenly you could steal. If you're somebody else, you could steal the spotlight from one of those two. So I guess that's the way I'd be looking at it. Friday night after the Adelaide Cairns game, the Wildcats and Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. That's another cracking game. The Phoenix arrive in Perth, yet to lose a game in the NBL.
I think Perth will get that done. I think there will be trainings this week for Wildcats. Will be very tough. I think they'll go, look, we obviously won in Melbourne, but let's not rest on our laurels at all. We took a big L on our home court, so they'll be chomping at the bit. They'll be ready for it. I think Phoenix will put up a pretty good fight, but I think the Wildcats will get that done by 6.
Just lost an assistant coach too, Paul. I'm not sure if you caught up with the news, Alex, but Paul Woolpert's headed back to the United States, so we've got another team early in the season that have lost an assistant coach.
And is that a good, a better opportunity? I'm guessing, or is it because he's from the States, right?
Apparently, family reasons is what he's cited for heading back home. So, yeah,
interesting.
There we go.
So who takes the assistant coach role? I guess the candidates will be very quickly to chuck their names in the hat.
Yeah, the man we talked about it early on might put his hand up. Nick Lakovic, you never know.
I hope he doesn't predict that he'll get in automatically because his predictions were great last
time. Saturday, Melbourne United, New Zealand Breakers. Neither team have won a game yet. Short turnaround for the Breakers, but huge game for both of them.
Surely Melbourne's got to get a W here. It's now or Q in the RAC. It's probably not going to be finals fever come February for them.
Sydney Kings undefeated even without Kevin Lish. Brisbane Bullets have lost a couple in Sydney on Saturday night.
Sydney Kings, I think Brisbane are at the critical junction for their import situation and whether they've got the right personnel. Yeah. So Kings will get that one by 10.
Southeast Melbourne back up, host the Adelaide 36ers on Sunday. That could be, both teams could score 100 plus points in that one.
There certainly won't be much on the defensive end, so they'll probably put it with the energy that they save at the defensive end will go straight into scoring. It's going to be a barn burner at like 100, probably 18 to 114, but I'm going to go with I'll go Southeast. I'll go Phoenix. So Phoenix by 4.
Then also on Sunday, the Illawarra Hawks host the Perth Wildcats. They don't enjoy coming to Perth, but hopefully in Wollongong they can put up a bit of show.
Perth and Adelaide rivalry, but I feel like there's been some really interesting games, Wollongong and Perth. They sort of play each other pretty well, except in Wollongong they usually Wollongong have got the edge on them a few times, but
they do.
I Wollongong actually. I reckon. It's going to be tough, but I think I'm going to back Wollongong on this one.
Plenty to look forward to right across the round. There's plenty to dissect back on this show.
I'm not confident, but I just got a feeling.
But back yourself,
Wollongong by 4.
This episode of the Pikey and Loughz Show proudly brought to you by Cairns Total Physio. Less pain, more life.
It's been a hell of a third episode, Loughz. Thanks a lot to Jodii Maguire for joining us, and of course the insight that you provide is just first rate. And looking forward to seeing where else you pop up now this week as well. Thanks to the Pikey and Loughz Show. But as always, we need to finish with your final thoughts,
mate. The Monday night home game is going to be an absolute cracker at the Cairns Convention Centre, and like I said before, get down to the game, help the Taipans, make Melbourne United tremble at the knees.